I would like to add my own parable to those that Jesus mentions in our gospel today. The kingdom of heaven is like Father Christopher, who loses his keys on a regular basis. He gets frustrated and then goes in search of them. When he finds them, he rejoices and unlocks the doors that he was trying to enter. Whoever has ears ought to hear. It's the same thing that Jesus is describing for us in our gospel. There is this search, but it's not just any search. The kingdom of heaven is a search, a discovery of something that is not us, something that we uncover, hiding amidst the normal and mundane things of everyday life. That's the fascinating thing, I think, about these parables that Jesus lays out for us. A treasure gets uncovered in a field. A pearl is found hidden in the deep. Good fish are pulled from a net amidst all the bad fish. The kingdom of heaven is a search with this surprising discovery that catches us off guard when we find it. The kingdom of heaven is not about just looking at ourselves. It's not staring at ourselves in the mirror every day. But it's this sense of going out to discover what is it that's waiting for us. What is it that's lying hidden in reality that is waiting for us to discover? But there are a number of things that make this search a struggle. And rather than seeing the discovery of the kingdom of heaven as an adventure, as this discovery of all these things that are waiting for us, it can become a burden. It can become a seemingly tireless search for something that is always just beyond our reach. It's a struggle, I think, because in many ways we've lost our sense of curiosity. At a certain point, our childhood curiosity was taken away from us. You know, like you would take a pacifier away from a child and say, "You're too old to be using this anymore." In some ways, it's like that's happened to us. Someone has taken away our childhood curiosity and said, "You're too old for that. That's for kids. You need to grow up." And so at a certain point, our curiosity was traded in for something more practical, something that we consider more useful for life. And so we were given this sense of self-sufficiency. Away with childhood curiosity, bring in this adult self-sufficiency where we can do everything on our own. We can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and we can make ourselves. And suddenly, this search for the kingdom of heaven, which is present among us, is no longer interesting. And in fact, it's no longer useful. Because our curiosity is gone, and we're all about doing things our way. This is what happens when we lose our sense of curiosity for the kingdom of heaven. We begin to dedicate our time to establishing our own kingdoms. Kingdoms that we don't have to look for. Kingdoms that we don't have to go out and search for, but kingdoms that we can manage on our own. Kingdoms that we can manufacture in the privacy of our own rooms. And we see this at several levels of our life. We see it in our spiritual life. We begin to say to ourselves, well, I can pray at my house. I really don't need to go to church or to belong to a community. I can do this just fine on my own. Self-sufficiency. I can pray by myself and develop my own relationship with God. We see it at the level of our resources. We say, look at what I've been given, and we use all of those resources to provide for our own needs, and we don't think about anyone else because we're building our own kingdom. Or even if we're poor, we can build our own kingdom of self-pity and despair and disconnect ourselves from our brothers and sisters who may be willing to help us. It happens in our relationships. We get so focused on ourselves, on what we want, that we stop paying attention to the needs of our family and friends, our spouses. All of this leads to this sense of isolation. This is where our lack of curiosity will lead us, to kingdoms that are built in bubbles, castles that are built in clouds, far away, disconnected from everyone else, because we're doing our own thing, not interested in discovering something else, but building our own kingdom. This is why we need what Solomon asks of the Lord in our first reading. He asks for an understanding heart. Now, Solomon could have asked for anything. God was on his side. Solomon could have asked for a long life. He could have asked for all the power in the world. He could have asked for all the riches, for political power to conquer all of his enemies. But he didn't ask for any of that. He asked for an understanding heart that could judge between right and wrong. Because Solomon knew that even if he had everything in the world, if he was disconnected from his people, that it was all useless. We all need to beg the Lord for an understanding heart, for a heart that is curious, a heart that wants to know more and more. Because sometimes we get stuck, and I've seen it. I've seen it because I hear people saying, well, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like that person. Thank God I'm not like them. And we start to point fingers and we start to judge by appearances. And we judge by appearances because we're no longer curious. If we were curious, then we would enter into dialogue and come to understand that person more and more. But instead, we stop. And we say, oh, I've got that person figured out, and I don't want anything to do with them. How can we discover something new if that is our approach to our brothers and sisters? Or if that's our approach to life? Why would I go to work every day? Why would I come to church? There's nothing new for me there. Our curiosity is gone, and we've gotten comfortable in our self-sufficiency. So let's beg the Lord today for a heart that is curious, a heart that desires to understand. Because the kingdom of heaven is like this. It's like a people that searches together for the treasure that is already present in our midst.